So chironomids are in the order 𝗛𝗘𝗟𝗪, meaning two-winged. They are often referred to in other areas as midges, or in England as buzzers. It's all the same thing. They are, in Western North America, by far the most important food item on the trout's diet. Trout eat tons of them. They're very prolific. There's like over 3,500 species in Western North America alone. They hatch from basically ice off to almost ice on. The most concentrated hatches are in the spring months. Trout, they're rich in calories. They're easy to eat, and trout love them. They've been eating them since the dawn of trout. But probably here in British Columbia, where I am today, Jack Shaw, I would say, is the person I would credit. He was one of the very first anglers probably in the 50s to recognize them as a food source and start imitating them. Everybody else was fishing kind of gaudy, flashy wet flies, fishing aggressively, trolling, those kind of things. Jack was the first to sit down and play the match the hatch game. And today it's evolved into so many methods. We fish them under indicators because one thing about chironomid fishing is trout get really fixated on a feeding depth with them. And the feeding depth can be very narrow, so an indicator allows you to suspend that fly in the depth. When you figure that out, you can fish them long leaders, 15, 18, 25, 30-foot leaders, and cast and retrieve. We can fish them with slow sinking lines, a great technique on windy days. When the surface chop makes it tough to get a good presentation, just casting long leaders and indicators and wind is challenging. And we can fish them in deep water vertically with fast sinking lines and just suspend flies off the bottom or, retrieve them up. So lots of different presentation options. And if you're going to fish lakes, productive lakes, at some point you're going to have to come to terms with this food source because it's just dominant. So if you like matching the hatch, seeing a food source that the trout are feeding on and matching what it looks like, how it moves, all those kind of things, its color. Chironomids will keep you busy for years and years. So we're matching the size of the bug, the color, the shape, and what I call the behavior. So that's your choice of materials and how you move that fly in the water to make the fish believe it's a natural food source. So if you like that kind of problem solving, puzzle, those kind of things, where switching up fly color, switching up size, changing a rib color, changing a bead color can make kind of a quiet day into an unbelievable day, and you'll like chironomid fishing. You're going to see signs of the hatch on the surface. You're going to see the cast shucks. They're transparent. The white gills remain with the shuck. So we may see some of those. That'll give you an idea of size. You may see some of the adults flying around. You can catch one in your hand or one to land on the boat. You can check out its color, keeping in mind that the adults are usually a little darker in coloration because that exoskeleton is hardened, and they're also a little smaller. There's always a downsizing when they transition. So the adults are always bigger than the pupa, and the pupa are typically bigger than the larval, smaller than the larval stage. It goes larva bigger. Anyway, that can help out. And then also you got to factor in chironomids, like other insect, have the ability to gather gases beneath their exoskeleton, which adds buoyancy, helps them elevate up through the water, and also when they hit the surface and transform into the adult, it kind of expels that adult a little bit into our world, and that makes them very shiny. So a lot of times we're using bright materials, flashaboos, mylars, anti-static bags to suggest that as well. So we're constantly experimenting. If you're in an area, other anglers are catching fish on chironomids, and you're pretty assured you're doing the same thing, fishing your flies at the right depth, all of that stuff, then you start playing with sizes and colors. And typically for me, it's the size of the bug, the shape of it, how I move it, and then the coloration. Because, and typically in a hatch, the pupa are going to start to be darker in color. That gas is going to have more and more impact. It's going to gas them up. It's going to make them shinier and shinier. So in the morning or early in the day, you might be starting with darker patterns. And as the hatch progresses, you might move the flies up in the water column as the fish follow because they elevate en masse, and also start using shinier and shinier flies. But every once in a while, you throw a giant chironomid out there that's 2 times the size of the naturals, that's a little loud and obnoxious. It's got some hot spot colors, a hot bead, big white bead when the others are more natural looking, and it stands out in the crowd, and the trout like it. So you try to follow what you see, but don't be afraid every once in a while to throw a wild card in there and just see if that makes a difference.